Hop, Humulus lupulus. Hop is a plant that only can be preserved by growing it. In Finland, they're used during the Swedish time when we belonged to Sweden. In the 17th century, we had to pay taxes, and part of that tax was based in hop. And that's why all farmers had to grow hop. And these hop growing, of course, they used also hop for making own beer. And that's why it have been preserved as an underutilized plant up till today. Let's have a look at a few photos of old hop cultivation at farms in Finland. Hop was usually grown close to the farm garden and often then next to some other small building that they had in the garden. Here you can see it next to a sauna. And here you can see a photo from 1929, how the hop is here also grown close to a barn. Or behind the main building here in 1930s, you can see that nobody is really taking care anymore for the hop. And here again in the garden, close to the barn. In the 20s, you can see the main building here to the left, and then different small barns and houses that they had for their doings. And far right, you can see the rihi, the building where they were drying grains. You can see that there are some sign of smoke on this outer wall. And here you have also the hop. And here, connection to the sauna. And this picture is from Estonia. And here you can see the main farmhouse and that the hop garden is very close to the main building. The Nature Resource Program in Finland have had several hop-related projects, and where they also have been looking at the DNA of the hops. Let's start with FAO's definition of agriculture genetic resource. It means a genetic material of plant origin that is or may in the future be of value for food production and agriculture. And such material is hop. So in Finland, hop cultivation has not for centuries been in the focus or important for the farm economics, whereas this has been so in Central Europe and southern parts of Europe, where hop production is a big cultivational crop. And due to this, then has been done no breeding on hop in Finland. So the hop that we find in Finland, it is all several hundred years old, may even go back to the Middle Ages. These types of hop that we have left here in Finland and also Sweden, they don't have any more in Central Europe because there are modern types of hop that are suited for modern industrial agriculture. So that's one reason why hop has been in the focus in Finland. The aim is, of course, to increase hop production in Finland, and there are also international agreements behind the protection of these plants or plant diversity, such as the Convention on Biodiversity. The hop program in Finland have been operating now for more than 10 years, and funding have been received in several parts, among other things, from the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry in 2016 and then continued in 2017. Which hops are then chosen for conservation? So you have to decide what will you take, and then you have to examine the DNA And of course, you're selecting different ones. Those with better taste, winter hardiness, disease resistance, cultural importance. All must be suited, of course, to our climate, the short growing season, our summer, and the low light we have. Even in higher up parts of the country, we have light in this short period, day and night. And they have, of course, to be able to produce a crop. So there are some few conservation methods and backup collections, of course, that you can have in storaging hop, which cannot be stored as a seed. You can have growing collections and backup collections. You can have them stored as micropropagated plant in such a collection, and then you can have them cold or cryopreservation. The plant cryopreservation is a genetic resource conservation strategy that allows plant material such as seeds, pollen, and shoot tips or dormant buds to be stored indefinitely in liquid nitrogen. So this one will also go for the hop. Why then to choose hop? The long history of cultivation, of course. The cones have been found in Turku from the 13th century of hop. And historically it was an important plant for us because we paid tax with that one. It was used for making beer, but also for other uses, for example, medicinal plant. Our hop strains flower early enough compared to foreign strains that often do not mature during the short summers. In 1990s already there was mapping of North Karelian hops, and 8 hops were collected from there, and later on 4 from southern Finland were added to the collection. DNA analyses were carried out 2011 to 2012, where they compared more than 100 hops. Based on this, then 6 more strains were selected for the collection, and 2 of those are in Elonkierto in Jokioinen, 1 male and 1 female. 19 are currently in conservation and propagation. Place and village names are usually included in the name. They are classified as land races if it's suspected that they have been cultivated, otherwise as wild hop. Later on in the investigation, it has turned out that all hops in Finland are most likely being cultivated. And if you find some that may seem like wild ones, then they are most likely then there have been some kind of houses in those areas, or it has just spread out from a garden. About then the hop conservation, you can see here on the map some of these hops, that these are these early ones that were collected from northern Karelia, and then some here from southern Finland. So we don't know about the hops for the whole of Finland yet. We know that there is one population from the 1400s, and it's not studied yet. And this first collection, backup collection, was established in Mustiala in 2005 already. And they were these first ones that were collected in eastern parts of Finland, and now there are some new ones also from southern Finland. And there is both, there is like one wild hop, or most likely to be a wild hop because the cones are so very small, and the rest are cultivated hop stalks. And studies have shown that the hops have different chemical and morphological characteristics. Hops have different diseases, many airborne. By propagation through cells, you get healthy seedlings. This is done by a heat treatment for 3 weeks at 37 degrees and then micropropagation. Virus testing has been carried out in Finland in 2017 on microcultures of 6 different strains. Breeding has been continued for viable propagation lines. The Ekelman garden, which supplies hop plants across Europe, is contaminated with diseases. No plants should be ordered from Germany to Finland. Genetic research. Previous there has been carried out a 100-sample DNA research by Christina Antonius, and in 2016 it was analyzed 63 samples more, and DNA was isolated from these, and 10 markers, so-called microsatellites, were used to indicate the degree of relatedness. Once the values were obtained, they were analyzed with the help of a software. This software calculates relationship between the strains, and a dendrogram is made to show the degree of relatedness. The results of the study was that many hops in different places were actually the same in Finland. Miettinen and Virtanen were among the best ones in the chemical study. Hattula strain descended from Annala strain. It's not known if it was breeding or free pollinated. And then Hammaslahti strain descended from Kite strain. Not known if breeding or free pollinated either here. Finnish hops are completely different from hops in the rest of the world. Central European varieties were also found, for example, in Kuusamo there was something very close to Spalter. 3 Central European breeds were found in the genetic research. If enough markers are used, Finnish hops can also be distinguished from the Swedish hops. Probably hops have been imported to Finland via Sweden at some point, but then developed in their own way. In hops, the wild strains did not differentiate, so it's likely that the Finnish wild strains are crop runaways. Some male individuals were present and grouped separately. Estonian strains have not been compared to Finnish strains, and as far as I know, Estonian hops has not been researched at all. In Finland, there has also been made some trials with producing fibers from hops. Experiences from growing trials. Organic production gives better concentrations and higher yields for hops. Landrace populations have grown well. pH and soil analysis should be carried out, and lime concentrations and nitrogen could also be given to them. It would have been worthwhile to make holes in the cover material of plastics. It's worth using a machine in the management, and white clover can be used as a cover plant in order to get less weeds. The soil can also be treated with the cultivator under the hops. Wind breaks may be also good for hops. As we saw in one of those old pictures, there also were some. You have to stay close to them in order to manage them, otherwise diseases can occur, meaning that you have to visit them often. Breeding could be started in Finland with Finnish landrace hops. A guide for professional hop cultivation exists in Sweden. One have to learn how to propagate hops and how to clean the hops. The initial costs for establishing a hop cultivation are quite high. You need to know the breweries, of course, and to have the marketing sorted out in order to start cultivating. Hops grow about 15 centimeters per day. It is worth to use machinery to dig the holes in the soil for the post. You need a flat dryer using plus 40 degrees in drying. The use of landrace hops. There was a trial carried out in Mustiala with Niinikumpu hop, and they were hand-picked and stored then into 300-gram bags and put in a freezer, but not dried. They were green when you put them in the pot. The alpha acids were not known. It had a delicate flavor, kind of fresh green birch smell. It's worthwhile to try it again and then to try to dry them first. There is a need to get info about the acidity and more information about the plants, otherwise it cannot be sold. Batches need to be measured, and that can be done sensorically in the garden. Finished hops mature earlier and thus produce more aroma earlier. The chemical values of hop. There is a classification for hop that could be used. Harvesting and storage conditions are essential for chemical quality. So we need to know how to withstand this storage, though freezing is one possibility. And then the maturity of hop when you are collecting them, that's also very important. There is an European Brewery Convention, and there is also an American Society for Brewing Chemists. And you need to know the alpha and beta acidity percentage, and beta values have a calming effect. You also can make research on the amount of essential oils, and there is an hop storage index, and hops may have essential oil compositions. And it's the lupulin glands that in the hops that is important. So it's this yellow stuff that you see in the hop cones. So when analyzing the hops, you need there are a few different laboratory specifications. You can do an conductometric in the laboratory. Then there is an spectrophotometric. It's a portable equipment that could also be used, and then you could do liquid chromatography in the laboratory as well. The Finnish and Swedish hops are quite similar. There is a need to experiment to get an idea of what kind of flavor the hops produce in the beer, and also which are the differences between dried and frozen hop cones. If the hop is fresh, they taste more like grass and leaves. And beer has always been made by drying hops and then storage them in cold, acid-free environment. After a year, it's not good any longer, and there are a lot of differences in flavoring. Hops are also been made research on for finding new bioactive compounds. So hops are used to find these combinations that can treat cancer patients in cancer therapy and treating yeast infections, and also in getting new antibiotics, and the ability of cells to form and maintain protein, or for example for the treatment of blood cancers. Combinations can be used to produce unique medicines. How you do it is that you do big screenings, and you can then find one that then goes to the next stage. The hop project that has been run by University of Helsinki, they have isolated fractions from different strains, and through screening perhaps they hope to find compounds that may prevent cancer growth. You want to kill the cancer cell so that it doesn't kill the healthy cells. We already know that there are substances in hops that can prevent cancer. Finnish hop stocks have not yet been studied. The diversity of our hop stocks is wide, and we should invest in researching them. We don't have any professional hop growers or a hop industry in Finland, and so we have to learn everything just by visiting hop farms abroad or thinking how we could do it here in Finland. There was an organic hop project in 2002 to 2006. Olavi Saunajoki in Satakunta participated in that, or was the main leader there. They established an experimental farm in Jämijärvi where they collected hops from circa 200 houses in Satakunta, Ostrobotnia and the Häme region. Hops usually grow close to old buildings, and some were possible even from the 17th centuries. In the past, the wealth of farms was established by the number of hop sticks they had. Hops thrive in loose, well-penetrated soil, such as silty clay. it was tried out to build a triangular structure to grow hop on that, but that was not, they put cattle manure in the middle, but that was not a good idea because the hops grow too dense at the top. It's better to have each hop growing separate on poles. One trial was with 11 to 12 meter high old electric poles, but it's not that good idea either because the old electric poles, they have been impregnated with very hazardous subjects, stuff like painting, to prevent fungi to grow on them, so not to recommend to grow hops on that either. But they were using then these knobs that were there from these electric poles left, and they could attach then this horizontal iron thread to that. So the idea was good, but in the end, nothing that we could really recommend now. In Middle Central Europe and Southern Europe, they have these wire systems where the wire can be loosed up and lowered down. So and you can adjust it also. And then it's easy to pick the cones. So this is really good system. The growing bed was a little bit higher than the ground. The land raised stock Miettinen starts to grow much faster than others. The row spacing does not need to be so wide, so 4 meters is already too wide. In between, hay was grown and the lawn was mowed once a week. Even though they were healthy seedlings, they got diseases, for example, mosaic viruses. In Germany, they have been producing broccoli under hops because it acts as a pest repellent. And during a visit to Slovenia and Germany, they saw that they used different types of harvesters and threshing methods in those countries, but the dryers were similar. And the halls where they were working in, so there is like a stationary thresher where you harvest it indoors. Then it was a little bit dark, so not a lot of light in that building inside. The hop machinery is used to be built by farmers themselves before in Germany. A pole drill was used when erecting the poles. And in 2017, they got about 10 to 40 euros per kilo for dried hops. There has been so bad weathers now lately and not favorable for hops, so the prices most likely have gone up. You can of course keep them and then sell them when the price is the right, but anyway, half a year the hop is in pristine condition when it's packed in nitrogen. After that, it expires. Other challenges with hops then, it's not an approved cultivar for support in Finland, and you cannot get investment aid either for it. And as there is no market, we really don't know what the price for organic hop would be. It could be 30 to 40 or even 50 euros per kilo. There are 80 breweries currently in Finland in 2017. With more on the way, and nowadays hop is considered as a special crop in the same way as cumin rapeseed also is. Further processing could add value and profitability to the crop. And domestic organic beer would be a good product to sell. 14 hectares was the average size of a hop farm in Slovenia. A Slovenian grower said it should be at least 20 to 40 hectares to be profitable. In Central Europe, they get 2,000 kilos per hectare, or sometimes from 1,200 to 1,500, but in Finland it's only 500 kilos per hectare. Because we have these old land races, we don't have these modern high-producing sorts. Fransila Herb Farm also produces cosmetic products from hops, so it's possible to use hop also for other purposes than beer. And seedlings have been distributed also when asked, and the hop is sold for home brewers at 6 euros for 100 gram And there are also those more expensive ones that are sold 15 euros per gram. I was made a visit to Washington, D.C., USA in 2016 to learn more about hop farming. The harvesting equipment is expensive and small-scale production is costly. It's an insane job to hand plucking hop cones. Drying can be done with existing dryers, but final product should be as clean as possible with no lactic bacteria. And drying should somehow be under very clean condition, not in the same room where the grain is dried. And it should be packed in bales and then packed in plastics. And at the plant, each bale was sampled, broken, and packed in mini balers and then packed in nitrogen for end users. So for developing an hop industry in Finland, you should need to build one hop thresher or harvester plant. For example, it could be in Forsaden, when farmers could then deliver freshly cut cones with tractors or with trucks into that plant. So it could be a kind of an cooperative. Nothing has really happened. Now it's already 8 years have passed. This investment is far too big to do. There has also been a greenhouse hop project, and about the hop marketing, yes, it's a good thing, but the production, you need to have that to stand out in some way. There is a demand after local landrace hops for especially small breweries. Beside the mentioned hop guide for professional users or professional farmers that is available in Sweden, then also in Sweden there have been made quite recently a book on hops, and a really nice book. It was published in 2010. This is more the cultural heritage and information gathered around hop and the hop cultivation. This is not an hop cultivation guide in that way, or so that one is a separate one.